Thank you all for joining me today. I want to start with introductions and expressing how pleased I am that our assembled virtual panel have made time to discuss issues around progressing women's and girls' rights. I'm Jenny Gilruth, I'm the Minister for Europe and International Development in the Scottish Government. And joining me today are Alice Anakur, Country Director at Oxfam in Rwanda, Dr. Archana Singh from the National Skill Development Corporation in India, Eliza Rudnowska from the Foundation of Civic Development Forum in Poland, and Amna Nadim, currently studying a BS Honours in Environmental Sciences at Government College University in Lahore. International Women's Day is an opportunity to reflect on achievements and challenges which impact on the rights of women and girls locally and globally. In this past year, Scotland has undertaken a number of progressive moves to improve the lives of women and girls here. In November last year, the Scottish Parliament passed legislation which means that our local governments and education providers have to make period products available for free to anyone who requires them, cementing into law the work that Scottish Government initiated back in 2017. Scotland is leading the way internationally on this issue. We were the first country in the world to introduce such a law, and our learning and experience is helping to inform policy in other countries. I'm glad that there is international awareness of such great and very necessary action. This is a really good example of cross-party working, of course, within the Scottish Parliament. The bill itself was introduced by a member of another political party, Monica Lennon, and the Community Secretary worked with her to ensure the bill was deliverable and supported it throughout the voting stage where it was unanimously passed. So all our parliamentarians recognise the importance of the need for change. Our research found that access to period products was a big issue, especially for those from low-income families or in full-time studies. And we asked whether it was right that women have to go through the indignity of using unsuitable materials to manage their periods, or to go without to stretch household budgets further to buy products for their children or to miss out on education. We also consider how our actions globally can help improve the situation for women and girls. As some of you will be aware, we spent part of the last year reviewing the Scottish Government's international development work. I'm happy to announce that we will introduce a new cross-cutting equalities programme across all 4 of our partner countries, Malawi, Rwanda, Zambia and Pakistan. The programme will have a particular focus on supporting the promotion of equality and the empowerment of women and girls. This key outcome from the review recognises the finding of UN Women that COVID-19 is deepening pre-existing inequalities and that the impacts of COVID-19 are exacerbated for women and girls simply by virtue of their sex. Therefore, we plan to fund other new initiatives that will benefit our partner countries within a new equalities funding stream to promote equality for and the rights of women and girls. The existing Police Scotland partnerships with the Malawian and Zambian police forces, which we support, are exemplars of peer-to-peer working on equalities issues. These will continue, now sitting within our new cross-cutting equalities programme. Our scholarship scheme in Pakistan will also sit within this equalities programme. As part of our investment funding stream, we will explore the feasibility of targeting our funding to support women within the new equalities programme. We will refocus the budget currently allocated under the International Development Fund to our existing small grants pilot programme towards promoting equality of women and girls and supporting their rights, including seeking to provide more funding directly in country to smaller local civil society organisations. In all of our work and on intersectionality equality issues, we want to ensure collaborative working with international organisations. We will therefore consider how we might work through international bodies in the future, whether on health or equality for women and girls, to maximise the impact of our development programme. There are many more approaches we take to improve the rights of women and girls, and I'll name check a few of them here now. The National Advisory Council on Women and Girls was established by the First Minister with a mission to be bold and to challenge the Scottish Government about where it needs to do better in order to realise gender equality. The Council have provided 3 reports with recommendations to the Scottish Government, that are designed to catalyse on progress in terms of gender equality. We ensure every expectant mother in Scotland receives a baby box, which doubles as a safe crib, complete with a mattress. But it also includes over 30 items designed to support expectant parents and to ensure every child, regardless of their background, gets the best possible start in life. Last January, we published our EU strategy, setting out how Scotland sees the European Union's priorities and how we can contribute to their delivery. We are committed to remaining an outward-facing constructive partner on the world stage and continue to contribute to wider EU goals. Our aspirations are that Europe actively promotes the well-being of all of society, which means prioritising measures that tackle gender inequality. We're making Scotland's workplaces fairer through our work to tackle the gender pay gap, while also investing in business led by women and other underrepresented groups. We shall continue to work to tackle the causes of inequality faced by women. I should also note that Ivan McKee, our Minister for Trade, Innovation and Public Finance, launched our Vision for Trade recently, which, amongst other things, emphasises the need for Scotland to consider our place in the global trading environment and how we use trade to address global challenges, reducing global inequalities and building international cooperation. So that's what we've been doing in terms of progressing the lives of women and girls, both in Scotland and globally. But there's of course plenty more which can be done. And with that in mind, I'd like to turn now to our panel today. First off, Amna. I understand you're currently undertaking an environmental sciences degree at the Government College University in Lahore as part of the Scottish Government's sponsored scholarship programme in Pakistan. I'd be really interested to hear about your experience in Pakistan and the circumstances in which you applied for the scholarship and your hopes, of course, for the future.
Thank you so much, Minister. So basically, hello everyone. First of all, I'm Amna Naeem. And to begin with, I'd like to thank the respected Minister for providing me a chance to be a part of such incredible program and to share this time in meeting with such amazingly talented women and to celebrate the International Women's Day. So I am an undergrad student of environmental sciences at Government College University, Lahore, Pakistan. I'm also a top scorer in my batch, securing an SGPA of 3.94, which I must mention. It has been largely possible because of the Scotland-Pakistan Scholarship for Young Women and Girls. The financial aid that this scholarship provided me helped me in a time when I was having immense troubles for continuing the pursuit of my degree. I was literally on the verge of quitting my degree, and through the support of this scholarship, I was provided and helped to keep going in my degree and continue my degree. But also, the scholarship has aspired me to make myself able enough and help the younger girls and women like me with their education and dream. To be honest, I never realized the true meaning of empowerment until I myself was helped by my kindest and respected gender fellows through the Scotland Pakistan scholarship that mainly focused on helping young girls. The scholarship told me that paving way for yourself at a certain point runs out of the magnanimous cause for which we all are fighting together, which is to empower women. I basically come from a humble family of Lahore, and being the youngest among us four sisters, what I've always learned is to follow the passion and dreams to every extent. Three of my sisters have all chosen their fields of passion and are growing in their fields. Uh, to be honest, the revelation of the strength of sisterhood came on me in rather a lighter way in the last meeting that I had with the Honorable Minister, when she mentioned that, like me, she was from a family of three sisters, and seeing her success and her efforts of helping women around the world, it reinforced in my aspirations. And after that, I started giving tuition to children, mostly girls, at home. And I believe in this tiniest way possible, I teach them to make education the first and foremost weapon to fight the barriers in life. I draw my aspirations not only from my nuclear family, but from women like you all that face every challenge, what may come their way, and come out shining. I, on my part, no matter how small, rebel against such social barriers too. Currently, I'm doing my field research project under the supervision of my female HOD. My research work is on plastic waste generation rate and recycling practices among the residential communities in Lahore, which focuses on the usage practice behavior of people towards using plastic and their response towards its eradication. Although my research is an innovative approach in my field of study and is contributing towards the environment protection. And it seems that it is not relating to gender equality or something like that. But I must state that I feel immensely empowered to state that being a female, I'm currently working with my female colleague and above all under the supervision of a female supervisor. And I am sure that my research work is going to bring an impact in society. And it is going to assure that girls surely can contribute to science and bring change at global platforms. I'm also the Vice President in Environment Protection Society, Government College University, Lahore. The society is working for environment protection causes and is being run by an advisor who is a female and encourages the participation of younger girls in the field. I've hosted as well as organized various seminars, webinars, and workshops on environment protection, published articles, blogs on the environmental issues, and acted as associate editor for my university's science magazine, namely the Scientific Review. I believe that I'm doing everything I can to engage in social activities and act as a flag bearer for the younger girls, girls like me, and paving a way for them to, to make a better future and to pursue their dreams. I'm highly thankful to the Minister and the Scotland Scholarship for changing my life positively, and I wish to stay a part of the Scotland family in the future, aiming to get inspired and become inspiration for the younger females. I really hope that the Scotland government also makes efforts to provide and initiate exchange program scholarship at postgraduate level, specifically for young and hardworking girls like me, for whom the only barrier to fulfill and achieve their goals and dreams are financial issues. I wish and am hopeful that for my master's degree, I get a chance to be provided by a scholarship initiated by the Scotland government for women. Thank you so much, Minister, for doing all these efforts for women and for empowering girls like me and providing me an opportunity and a platform to express myself. I'm greatly thankful that I was able to become a part of this panel today. And I am doing, and I'm getting inspired by you all amazing women to do everything in my power for girls like me in my country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amna. Nice to see you again. It was great to hear from you and to hear about the difference that scholarships are making in Pakistan. And hopefully one day I would love to welcome you to Scotland if you're ever able to take part in a further postgraduate scholarship. Next up, I'd like to ask Alice to give us an insight into her work as country director for Oxfam in Rwanda, which is of course one of our partner countries, and your focus in terms of the work you do to promote the rights of women and girls in Rwanda. Over to you, Alice.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. As said, my name is Alice Anukul. I'm the country director of Oxfam in Rwanda. As country director, I'm responsible for the overall planning and implementation of Oxfam work in Rwanda. I do provide oversight to the Rwanda Country Program, which includes obviously the Claiming Sexual and Reproductive Health Rights project that is supported by the Scottish Government, and which is also core intervention in promoting gender justice in Rwanda. I do ensure program effectiveness, performance, and accountability by providing a clear strategic direction to deliver an effective and knowledge-based and local partner-led influencing country program. So my work is devoted to ensuring stakeholder engagement for recognition of women and girls' voice, their power, their rights, and influence for sustainable shift in community, in national and global policies, as well as practices of both state and non-state actors. I have strong commitment to feminist principles, and I do value partnerships that are necessary to widen our impact at scale and also promote positive outcomes for women and girls. The Oxfam Rwanda Claiming and Sexual Reproductive Health Rights project provides support to Isange one-stop centers in the fight against gender-based violence, and is part and parcel of Rwanda's gender machinery work promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. We do work in partnership with the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, and also with other civil society and other stakeholders in the economic of women and girls, raising awareness, particularly within the communities we serve through the horticulture value chains, and we use many innovative methodologies such as the girls methodology to promote women participation and gender equality. We have embarked on our final year of implementation with focus on three main areas: sustainability, capacity, and organizing. With sustainability, we're establishing project activities, ensuring that the coalition of local partner organizations we closely work with are custodians of the legacies of the project achievements, and strengthening capacities of health workers within the existing Isange one-stop centers so they can remain sustainable, as well as vehicles and conduits for all strategies and plans in fighting against gender-based violence. We're intensifying the training to community members and project champions against to ensure that as change agents, they are empowered to continue the fight against SGBV and supporting victims in the communities within Rwanda. And third, and most importantly, we're working to ensuring that SGBV victims are organized in support groups where they can become economically empowered, because we know that economic independence is one way to fight poverty, given it's a driver of violence and repeat violence for women and girls. I would like to just give a glimpse about the work of Oxfam by this short and sweet story of a lady called Salome, not her real name. And this lady was a teen mother who was trained by Oxfam in sexual reproductive health rights, and during one of the campaigns to promote awareness, she was selected among the best teens after the training to join a high-level meeting on review of implementation of the Maputo Protocol in 2017. Now, she is the president of the National Youth Council in one of the districts. I'll not mention the name for privacy. Salome is currently one of the Scottish-funded program community task force agents of change, who awareness of women's rights and community linkages with the Isange One-Stop Center, and provides great support to other teen mothers, sharing her positive change story and providing them with coaching support. She also uses her position to influence the agenda of her district around gender and GBV issues. During this COVID-19 season, as an influential local leader, Salome is calling on young people to take the lead in fighting against GBV. I thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for this conversation.
Thank you very much, Alice. It was great to hear about Salome's story there and all the important work she's involved in terms of gender-based violence, which of course is an issue in Scotland as much as I imagine it's an issue in Rwanda. So there's a lot of partnership and sharing of knowledge on that matter. I'm sure that we could do more of. Eliza, I wonder if you could explain your experiences and work in this area.
Thank you very much again, Honorable Minister, and all of the ladies here for inviting me to this panel. I wish I could say that Poland has been a real idol when it comes to women's rights and advancing women's rights and their freedoms. However, this year's Women's Day in Poland will be an especially sad one. The past year, 2020, has not only been a battleground due to COVID-19, but our bodies, women's bodies, have become a battleground in my country. We have faced an unprecedented attack on our selves, on our entity as women, starting with the abortion ban that became effective after the Constitutional Tribunal ruling on the issue. Effectively, this ban, once it came into force in January of this year after its publication, basically ended over 97% of all legal abortions conducted in Poland. The malfunctioning or sickness of the fetus. Women in Poland have taken to the streets, regardless of the threat surrounding us with a deadly virus. We have taken to the streets to express our anger, our disappointment, our frustration, and a demand for justice for us, for justice for our daughters, our sisters, our mothers, our friends. To date, we have had over 150 detentions of peaceful protesters. Peaceful protesters were driven out of the cities where they were protesting in, especially Warsaw. They were dropped at police precincts as far away as 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers from the city center, and were left on their own at night to get back. I was one of the pro bono lawyers who participated in defending these peaceful protesters and was present at the hearings after their detainments. These are not hooligans. These are people who wanted to express how afraid they were of their own government. It is quite depressing to talk about a country that has advanced so much over the past 30 years after ending over 50 years of a communist regime and has advanced as a democratic country. However, over the past couple of years, we have seen a rapid decline and a degradation of the rule of law in Poland, which has effectively affected women's rights, minorities' rights, and the rights of those who oppose the government. Populists have taken over power and are providing their own views of the world and imposing them on everybody. The ruling from October of last year of the current constitutional tribunal has effectively been a declaration of religious beliefs. However, Poland is a democratic, pluralistic country with many belief systems. And yet we are faced with having to deal with only one, seen as the right one. Women in Poland have effectively been denied more and more of their value, more and more of their rights. We have heard that once a woman becomes pregnant, she is no longer the owner of her uterus. Suddenly, the uterus becomes a national issue. This is unheard of and should be unheard of. And we will continue our fight as lawyers, as human rights activists, as women and their supporters to change this, to go back to advancing women's rights, rather than seeing and witnessing a degradation not only of the rule of law in the country, but also the degradation of human rights and their protection. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Eliza. That was a hugely powerful contribution in terms of what's happening in Poland at the moment, and I think we'll come on to that in our further discussion. But just finally, we're going to hear from Archana before we do so. Archana, could you perhaps explain the work you undertake as part of the National Skill Development Corporation in India?
Yes, thank you, Minister. Eliza, your story was very overwhelming. Thank you for all those inputs, and thank you, Amna and Alice. From what you shared, I understood that things are pretty much the same globally. India is the world's largest democracy, and we are a large population of 1.2 billion. And the National Skill Development Corporation, the organization that I represent today, is primarily in the business of skilling. And I'm going to share inputs in three categories. An overview of the organization. The second category would be the impact that we have made. And the third would be the challenges that NSDC is facing. So NSDC is an acronym for National Skill Development Corporation, and that's how I'm going to refer to this organization further on. We are an organization within a public-private partnership, and we have been created by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship in India. There are myriad activities that we undertake. I'm not going to go into details of all of them. Our primary business is of skilling, and there is the flagship scheme of the Government of India that we run, which is called the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. The acronym for it is PMKVY. So far, we have skilled about 20 million people across our country. And we have a penetration in 29 states and 5 union territories of our country. There are about 39 skill councils that we have under the NSDC, with an outreach to about 660 districts of the 741 districts that we have in our country. Then out of 93, out of 106 left-wing extremist districts, we have covered about 93 districts. The statistics are large. I'll come to the relevance of women in these statistics. We of the 20 million that we have skilled, 50% of this cohort is women. And you'll be happy to know that 50% of the cohort have also been successfully placed, and we've been able to provide employment to women. And when we talk about employment, I will share a story like you shared, Alice, about these 104 widows from a small village in Varanasi. Varanasi is a city in the state of Uttar Pradesh in India. And being a widow in India, I don't know if it's the same in other countries, is a matter of great stigma, because especially if you're in a small town and your remote village. So these 104 widows, some are 22-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds with 2 children, 4 children, looking after their, in-laws, looking after their children, single-handedly were earning about 10 pounds a month. And with the skilling opportunities that were provided to them, we helped them with becoming entrepreneurs in the apparel sector, and now they're stitching clothes, etc., in their small village, and their income has gone up to about 100 pounds. So great story of impact for us in India, to have been able to empower women, and on top of that, widows who are complete destitutes in these small, remote areas of our country. So that's about the skilling of women. I'll come to the other things that NSDC does. We have been in association with the Glasgow Kelvin College from Scotland, and we've been in conversations with them on gender equality issues in conferences. Apart from that, internationally, there is labor mobility that is being provided to different countries like Maldives, Japan, the UAE, etc. Along with international mobility, we are into creating curricula, content, etc. We've got more than 2,500 qualification packs. Qualification packs are job roles that we have in different trades. And as far as women are concerned, we are trying to break the bias and make sure that women get into non-conventional trades like operating machines, etc., and go away from the bias of just doing, just getting skilled in trades like beauty and wellness, the apparel sector, the textile sector, the usual sectors that women are usually associated with. Apart from that, we've got a Skill India, eSkill India portal where we provide free courses to men and women alike. And we've got partnerships with Microsoft, IBM, the Sailor Academy, British Council, etc. To go on, we are also implementing the apprentice scheme of the Government of India. It is called the National Apprenticeship Scheme Promotion. And we are into innovative financing for women, and we are enabling women to begin their own startups. Fortunately, COVID has helped India in many ways, and especially women, because technology has enabled women to come into the workforce, which we were unable to do perhaps otherwise because of our family commitments at home. But this work from home and other platforms of technology have enabled us to get into gig economy jobs and come back to the workforce. One of our challenges has been that our workforce, female labor force participation has declined to about 23% from a 30%. So that has been a great cause of concern. But luckily, with technology, we're trying to bring back women into the workforce. The challenge so far has been that women are associated more with what we call the traditional trades, like I mentioned earlier, like beauty and wellness, apparel. So we are ensuring that women come into the STEM-related trades, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, and ensure that the pay gap, like Minister, you also mentioned, is a problem in your country. The gender pay gap is addressed with more women coming into the technology sector and the women labor force participation rising in our country. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh. It was really helpful to hear a little bit more about the work you're doing in terms of helping women to upskill themselves, but also the support you're giving to widows and the stigma attached to being a widow. It's quite an interesting topic that you touched upon there. So thank you to all of you for your contributions today. I'd like to open the conversation up now a bit more widely to all of you. Do you think there's something that we could collectively be doing in terms of taking action that you'd like to highlight now? And I appreciate there are 5 of you, so there are 4 of you rather, 5 of us all together. So we'll maybe try and go across the panel if that's okay. I mean, the one thing I suppose we haven't touched upon today is maybe the elephant in the room, which in all of these contexts, whether we're talking about scholarships for women and girls, or gender-based violence in Rwanda, or access to abortion, or women getting access to training in terms of the skills they need to succeed economically. We're not talking, I suppose, about the other 50% of the population here. We're not talking about men. And sometimes I wonder if actually the conversations that we have when we want to advance the rights of women and girls are often women talking to each other about what we can do to help. And maybe we need to talk to men and actually challenge some of the stereotypical notions that go alongside that. I think in particular in terms of Eliza's contribution, where I can imagine some of the arguments are coming from. But you all may have different views on this in terms of what we do next collectively. So we'll maybe go back to Amna. I don't know if you want to kick us off, Amna, in terms of what you think could be done differently, and maybe how you think that women and girls' education and maybe some of the challenges around about educating women and girls in Pakistan, and what we might be able to do on a global level in terms of challenging stereotypes, and whether or not education for women and girls is important, because of course it is vitally important.
Okay, so well, thank you, Minister. I'd like to say that the status of gender equality and empowerment in my country is not so discreet. Every day is basically a struggle for a common woman in Pakistan. The women in Pakistan are totally dependent upon their, males in their family, from getting support to go out and study to being there in the field and working on the mainstream issues alongside men requires not only the ability to overcome the obstacles, but the woman also required an heart that's courageous enough to go ahead in such society. So I'd like to say that for girls in Pakistan, education, girls are not encouraged to pursue for higher education in Pakistan, because they are like, you can finish up your matriculation or school studies, and then you have to get married and all that. So instead of starting a family, the girls are not encouraged to pursue the education. And I believe collectively we can do what we can do is that we should, like you are currently, and the Scotland government is currently empowering girls through the Scotland Pakistan Scholarship. So we need to provide girls more scholarships and more jobs, so that they can empower themselves, they can become independent, and they can pursue their goals. So I believe that after study here, the issue that we girls face is that getting a job, and for that we need to go into the field, and we need to go outside in the outer world, and it's very difficult being in a male dominant society when you're not allowed to step outside. So for girls, we can do is that we can collectively, start an initiative and provide more jobs. And as you mentioned, we can cover and address the gender pay gap and all these things. So I think we can do this, that for making girls independent and empowering them, we need to provide them a job, and we need to provide them opportunities so that they can show their ability and they can show their, power. Right.
Thank you, Amna. I think we'll pass over to Alice now in Rwanda, if that's okay, Alice. What do you think we should be doing? What could we work collectively on?
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think my call would be to think collectively in taking a holistic approach to COVID response. We need to cover a broad range of interventions that include sexual reproductive health rights, that include conflict management, GBV prevention, and ensure inclusive participation of various stakeholders, including women, men, and even children. We need to all encourage policymakers at different levels to consider meaningful and appropriate ways of involving a varied and diverse set of stakeholders so that men and women contribute. At Oxfam, we engage with Men Engage, which is a men-led, because we realize we shouldn't be speaking only to ourselves. We speak to private sector in value chains, with civil society organizations, with faith leaders. We work with Interfaith Council for Health, which is a faith-based leadership that would speak on pulpits, things that otherwise would be a taboo to talk about traditionally in religions. And so I think multi-stakeholder engagement. Secondly, there is need to increase investment for gender response. Development partners must invest more for a gendered response to COVID-19 crisis to ensure that GBV is an integral part of the national response strategies and have an inclusive economic stimulus package that recognizes the linkage between economic assistance, social protection, and gender-based violence. And I believe in doing so, you need to use a gender-sensitive participatory process that is mindful of the difference in which girls and boys are affected. And I think the Salome story really tells it all, because she was selected among 2 teen mothers who attended a high-level meeting in 2017. She caused many people to cry upon hearing her story, where as a vulnerable young lady who had been raped, when she joined the training of teen mothers at Oxfam, and in the campaigns of raising awareness about women's voice, this teen mother shared her story in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, and put things into perspective, because she brought out the fact that the challenge she is facing is faced by most teen mothers who face issues like they need to come with your husband so as to register a child in school. That prevents many from accessing education because she has no husband. She was raped, for heaven's sake. So I think there is need to seek to influence and advocate for equality, for inclusion, but we must bring girls and victims or survivors of sexual and gender-based violence on the table of discussing solutions, particularly to do with policy and laws. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alice. That was a really powerful contribution. Eliza, I know that the Polish experience is somewhat different, but there do seem to be some similarities here in actually denying women their fundamental rights. So I don't know if you have any views on what Alice has said, but also on that bigger question of what we can do on a global scale to tackle these issues. And I think the point that Alice made around a gender response to COVID-19 was also really important.
Yes, thank you so much. Again, thank you for the testimonies that we are hearing here today. They're really moving, and I wish I could say that, it's all different here in Poland, that we don't have these these situations. But unfortunately, the reality we are faced with today is women will go to prenatal screenings and they will hear that the fetus they are carrying might be mortally ill, and they will be forced by the state to carry that pregnancy to term. They will be forced by the state to be called mothers, and they will be forced by the state to call the fetus a child, which is an entirely different story altogether. One of the points of the written justification of the decision of the Constitutional Tribunal was to empower the legislators to use the term mother and child as often as possible, instead of fetus and a pregnant person. That in turn really shows the ideology behind the judgment or the decision. I wanted to also revert to what the Honorable Minister said about allies. Unfortunately, in Poland, we have more or less obvious allies in the form of men, partners, husbands, brothers, who also face jail time, as a doctor would face jail time if he or she terminated a pregnancy, even with the consent of the woman. Anybody who helps her obtain an abortion against regulations is facing up to 3 years of prison time. And that includes helping a woman receive funds to buy abortion pills, driving her to a clinic. So unfortunately, what we are seeing are really just forced allies. We have two roads that we can go down. One, risking the livelihoods of our closest friends and family, or the other road, which is taken by many women, is that they suffer alone. And that is the situation the state has put women, Polish women, in right now. What has also happened is the wonderful solidarity that we have heard from other countries that have openly stated they will be helping Polish women obtain the needed procedures within their own borders if the Polish state decides to leave them on their own. So I believe that right now what we are facing is really a global solidarity movement that we need around the world for all, regardless of race, religion, or ethnicity. Because again, we are facing the same terrors and the same horrors.
Thank you very much, Eliza. I mean, I think out of everyone on the call, apologies, that's my dog in the background. Out of everyone on the call, I have only been to Warsaw. It's a beautiful city, but I think there's often an assumption that in the West that we have women's rights sorted, and I don't think we do. And in Scotland, for example, I've given you examples of the work we're doing on the baby box, or we have, for example, a gender balanced cabinet. We have a female first minister, which is great, but we still have deeply rooted issues in terms of sexism in Scotland and in terms of gender-based violence as well. So the issues that you're discussing, Eliza, are not something that I think sitting here, and Scotland was until recently, as you know, a member of the European Union. There are real challenges, I think, in terms of what's happening in Poland just now for the EU and how it responds to what's happening to a member state in terms of women's rights. It's a real test, I think, for the institution and for those of us who believe in the European Union. So I'd like to now bring in Archana, in terms of what views you might have on this big issue. I mean, we have kind of spoken about the elephant in the room, male allies, and how important they are in this. And Eliza gave the example of course, there being male allies in Poland, but then potentially facing jail time as a result of being so and doing the right thing. And it's a huge challenge. So Archana, I don't know if you've got any views on that, or in terms of how COVID-19 has impacted on the work that you do.
Right. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I would like to start with, 5 areas of collaboration that we can think of between Scotland and India, because I heard that's the question you're asking everyone, so you probably asked me the same. So I just wrote down a few things here. First thing that we could do is perhaps come up with a research project, and the outcome of the research project could be a toolkit that would address issues like empowerment of women, domestic violence, how that can be reduced during the COVID-19 situation, sensitization of men and other allies, etc. Then the second area that I thought of was, empowerment of women in both countries through exchange training programs. You could probably have, training programs through an exchange where there could be students from our country going to Scotland, and students from Scotland coming to India. That could be one. Then the third area of collaboration that I thought of was international mobility of workforce. You may be aware that India is the youngest nation in the world. And it's going to continue to be so because our demographic dividend is such that we can cater to the workforce of the world for the next 10 to 15 years. So in case there is a requirement for workforce in areas where there aren't any men or women available in your country, then there can be international mobility of the workforce, especially with a special focus on women. Then we can have a mentorship program as well, where there can be mentors from your country mentoring our students and women in our country. Then the last one that I thought of was scholarships for women and girls, like you have for Pakistan. So these were the areas of collaboration that I thought of. And something that we could do collectively for not only India but for developing countries, especially coming up with a research project which gives us clear go no goes for what needs to be done to address these issues that Eliza, Alice, Amna, all of us mentioned, from domestic violence to, not having a right over one's own fetus, to having financial challenges in Pakistan for a woman, etc. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. I suppose on that point then, in terms of COVID-19, which a few of the contributions today have touched upon, we know that the lockdown restrictions have increased, for example, domestic violence in the home, because women are much more likely to be at home. In Scotland just now, we certainly have a stay-at-home restriction, which means you can't travel unless for an essential reason. Do people on the panel think that, sorry, I think my dog's going to stop barking now. Do people on the panel think that COVID has made things worse for women? And if it has, and we have what I think Alice talked about was a kind of gendered approach to how we rebuild, what might that look like? And I know that's a pretty wide-ranging question, but maybe people on the panel have views, and I'll maybe look for hands up if people want to come in on this point. Eliza?
Yes, I wanted to touch upon two main issues that we have actually been dealing with as a result of the pandemic. The first one being that the pandemic was used very effectively as a means to stop people from protesting, to prohibit people from taking to the streets, and it has been abused as a justification for the brutality of police forces who have been sent to disperse the crowds, supposedly for the fact that everybody there was endangering others due to the pandemic. However, it was really the police forces that usually did that, using, for example, the Kettling method, which is basically drawing everybody into one big crowd, instead of letting peaceful protesters protest, but with a safe distance from one another. So there's that one issue, and of course that was used by the public television as propaganda to show all of the protests as a massive spreader of the disease, instead of highlighting the issues which really stood behind the protests in the first place. And the second issue that we have been dealing with, and I'm sure that this relates to all the other wonderful ladies on the panel and their work is the fact that once people had to stay at home and they were asked to stay at home, some actually ended staying at home with their oppressors. And that has been a very big issue in Poland as well. We have had a rise in domestic violence, and the rapid responses to that were also not as rapid as they would be in normal, ordinary times, including the fact that also children were not allowed to go to their schools, and they were not monitored as closely by teachers. So if a child, went missing or went blank from their Zoom call for a long while, teachers often didn't respond as quickly as they should have. So that also showed us a different way that the COVID pandemic impacted women's rights and rights.
Thank you, Eliza. I think that's a really good example that you've given there of young people not being in school. I was a teacher before I was elected in 2016, so that the importance of teachers picking up on things happening in the home can't be understated. Archana, I know you wanted to come in here.
Yeah, hi. So, a very major issue in India has been that of unemployment and joblessness. And the easiest victim for unemployment have been women who are there in the workforce, because it's easier to knock off, a woman who's working than to, lay off a man. So that has been a great matter of great concern in India, that has been of unemployment. And also the next concern has been the way people have been addressing their jobs and the skills that they have had for their jobs earlier, because the new normal shows us that it's not only skills that we require in our domain. We don't only need to be expert in what we do, but we need to have other skills also, and digital skills being one of the very primary skills. So I don't know if all of y'all have faced challenges, but when the COVID-19 hit us and everything went digital, I didn't even know how to raise my hand up on a Zoom call. I mean, I was struggling to find the chat box and find the that icon for raising hands, etc. So things have changed. The new normal is different from what we had earlier. So we need to upskill ourselves, we need to reskill ourselves, and women primarily need to do that more than perhaps men, because we are always put in the back burner for some reason or the other, and the men take the front line. So it's time now, that the pandemic has taught both women and men alike that that it's very important to be skilled and upskilled and have an edge over the others. So it's time that women have an edge now over the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana. I thought that was a really important point. That women undertake the vast majority in households of unpaid labour, that unseen labour. We often talk about cleaning, the kind of domestic chores that are often the caring responsibilities as well, which fall often on the shoulders of women and families. And then in addition to that, throughout the pandemic, women might have been working from home thanks to technology, but they're also taking on their fair share and more usual of these kind of household tasks, which men seem to manage to dodge because of the gendered nature of what we're talking about. Amna, I know you were keen to come in here.
Yeah, I would like to add a bit few points. Like, I can relate to Dr. Archana's point. Women, first of all, I'd like to highlight that us students had to face a lot of mental health issues. Like, we had a lot of pressure because of being in home and working from home, because it was something new for us. And it is something that needs to be addressed, because nothing is being done in our country. There are many health issues, and mental health is not given any priority. So it's the least thing that will be given priority ever, and even in the coming years, because we have so many other issues to address. So that was the thing that we faced a lot. And secondly, the burden on women increased a lot, because dependability of everyone, like they had to do home chores and they had to do work of their children and their husbands and everyone, like they had so much to do, and they didn't have any spare time, so it increased in women. And I believe that in Pakistan, so women are dependent entirely on their their partners, and even those women that are a bit independent, their independent nature got suppressed, and it was declined, because women lost their jobs and they had to totally depend upon their partners for their money and everything they needed, even their basic needs. So I think we need to do something for women so that they can become independent. It should not be like this, that women, even in home, they should they should be provided chance to work from home. It's not necessary that they need to go out and earn. They should also be provided opportunities to earn from home and become independent and empower themselves. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed, and that should be highlighted, because we face this a lot, that we are entirely dependent upon our fathers, or our brothers or mothers are dependent upon the sons. So women in Pakistan need that empowerment and need that independent state where they can support themselves and they do not need to depend upon anyone.
Thanks, Amna. You're absolutely spot on to say that. And I suppose some of the challenges that COVID throws up, we can potentially turn on their heads, and the opportunity for women to have that economic independence that Archana spoke about at the start is hugely important, and perhaps the pandemic offers more opportunities in that space. But we also know that women are more likely to be employed in low-paid jobs. They're more likely to undertake part-time jobs. So these challenges that are present because of our biology, I don't think differ whether you're sitting in India or if you're in Warsaw or if you're sitting in Scotland, as I am just now. The challenges that come with a highly gendered, I suppose, approach to how the world operates have only been exacerbated as a result of the pandemic. I just want to thank you all for that really fulsome discussion. I feel as though I could probably have stayed on this call for another hour, but I think it's a really appropriate moment for us to bring our conversation probably to a conclusion. I want to thank all of you, my virtual panelists, for joining me today. So thank you to Alice, to Archana, to Eliza and Amna. And I'd like to encourage those of you watching the discussion to engage with us all on all these issues in the future, and via, of course, social media. If you'd like to learn more about what Scotland is doing across any of these important issues, please visit www.gov.scot. Thank you.
Thank you, and namaste from me, from India.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. It was really an honor to discuss all these issues with you. Thank you.
No, it was my pleasure to speak to you all. Thank you. It was really interesting. Maybe we might have an opportunity for a future conversation like this after the next International Women's Day.